Playing outside is this huge mysterious box of surprising sounds that you can pull out in an improvisation or in a solo. And there are many ways to work on this, but one fairly easy way to work on it is called sidestepping or sideslipping, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this lesson. Since the point of playing outside is to play something that sounds far away and surprising from where you are in the song, then playing something like an altered dominant in a 2-5-1 cadence is in a way also already playing outside. And that's pretty much the approach that I'm going to talk about here, because sidestepping or sideslipping is just to think the chord that's half a step above or below where you're at for a period of time, and then getting into it in a logical way and getting out of it in a logical way. In that way creating a temporary surprising sound. The easiest way to work on this is probably in a situation where we only have one chord sound, so we don't have a lot of chords moving around, and we just have this one sound that we can always hear as home, and then we can start moving away from it and back again. In this lesson I chose this G minor 7 Dorian kind of sound, and I made this riff to sort of give us a feeling of the sound. We can use this G minor vamp as a home, as a definition of what is inside, and the sound that would go with that would be something like this G Dorian scale. And then to have something that's outside, what we're going to do is we're going to shift the whole thing up a half step. You could have shifted down a half step also, that doesn't really matter too much. And then we have this A flat minor, and that's going to be this scale, which is of course completely the same, just moved up a half step. And the lines that you make are then going to be probably first some G minor, then some A flat minor, and then back to the G minor. So in that way we're sort of using the A flat minor as something where what we play is something that needs to resolve, and you have to think ahead, so you have to think how you're going to get into the A flat and also how you're going to get out of it. And that's the basic concept. So basically this progression, but then put on top of the vamp. And of course this sounds a bit funny when you're on top of this chord. So there are two things that we need to work on with this. You need to work on playing from G minor to A flat minor and back again, so that you can make logical lines, because even though you're playing outside, you probably still want to make melodies that make sense and not just play random notes out of A flat on top of the G minor. And you also kind of need to get used to the fact that you're playing another sound on top of what is already going on. So you are hearing G minor in the riff that I'm playing, but you're also playing A flat minor on top of that, and some notes will sound in a certain way, and you have to take that into account and get used to that. So that takes a little bit of practice also, just to get that into your system and into your ears. So in this first example, I'm just playing a really simple melody on the G minor Dorian, and then repeating that on the A flat minor, and then resolving to D, which is the fifth of G minor. So really a strong note to go back. And the point of this is, a good place to start when you start working with sideslipping is, since you want to make some sort of logical melody, you can pretty much work with just repeating what you just played in G minor and move it up a half step, and then see what you can do with it there. It's a little bit boring, but it's a good way to start, and you can really hear how the tension of the different notes are going to change once you start moving up the phrase you just played. So in this second example, I'm using the same idea. I'm still moving a motif around, but I'm being much more free about it. And I'm starting out with this G minor 9 arpeggio. And instead of going back and starting here, I'm just moving up. And then I make a slightly different melody on the on the B major 7 or C flat major 7 if you want to, and then skipping up to resolve that to another note, which is again the D on the G minor. So in the third example, I'm going away from using motifs, and I'm just trying to play a line connecting the two changes in using the material that you would normally do. So I'm just using target notes, and I'm just using the basic arpeggios. The G minor line is this trill on the A, and then a D minor triad and some notes from the G minor triad, and the line on the A flat minor part of the line is just a scale run starting on the A flat and then resolving to the 9 of the G minor. So there's nothing really complicated going on. And I think also when you're trying to play something that's outside, it's good to really stay inside first. So you play something that's very strongly G minor and not too much in the extensions. And then when you play something that is on the A flat minor, which is supposed to be outside, if you keep it also really simple there and really grounded, then all the outside and surprising notes are the ones that are really found in A flat. And if you start moving up into the extensions, like the 9 already, then you're actually playing notes that are belonging back in the G minor. And they might be less effective if you don't use really some sort of reference to the A flat minor bass that you sort of want to use as the outside sound. And then of course you need to get back in a way that sounds logical, and also that you can hear like now I'm really back. And that has to do with just aiming for a note that's in the G minor but not in the A flat, and then ending on that. So that was a few thoughts on how you can start working on using sidestepping or sideslipping to play some outside lines in your solos. I chose to do this on a static chord, as I talked about in the beginning, because I think it's easier to really work on it like that, and I also think it's a little bit more efficient there. If you want to use it in a chord progression, then there are a few more variables, because you might be changing chords, and what you played as outside on one chord has to resolve to another chord, and there are all sorts of other things to take into consideration. So I think this technique is something you want to use when you have a bit of time on a chord, and it depends on the tempo, it depends on how many bars you have of the chord, of course. But keep that in mind when you try to use it. But at the same time, the idea of thinking other chords is something that's really powerful when you want to use outside sounds in general. So you can do that in any case and start making up your own chord progressions on top of the songs you're playing, and then leave some original chords in there and then start changing the rest to make some other progression that works. And that's maybe something that I can talk about in another lesson on playing outside, how you can reharmonize a standard or a chord progression so that you play something completely different that doesn't really belong anywhere, but because you're going out in one bar and then coming back a few bars later and have a logical movement in between, then if you ignore the changes that were originally there, it's still going to work. And that's something that I also work with a lot when I'm playing standards. Another thing you should work on when you're starting to work on this sideslipping is also that right now the examples that I gave were really simple rhythmically, because they were just like one bar of this and then one bar of the next and then back again. And I think this works really a lot better if you start opening that up. So if you play, for instance, if you're moving motifs around, then try to do it with a motif that's like 5 notes long, or try to move in more surprising ways, that you're not playing a whole bar of something and then a whole bar of something else, but then try to move in the middle of a bar and try to do that. Once you're sort of used to playing like that and start working on it like that, that's going to make it a lot more effective, and it's also going to make it a lot more surprising, because we expect new sounds on the strong beats like the 1 and the 3, but if you're playing something and you're starting somewhere in the middle of the bar and also ending somewhere in the middle of the bar, it might work much more as a surprise, and it's going to sound much more interesting. But that's also something I can maybe cover some other time. If you want to download a PDF of the examples that I went over here, then you can go to my website. In the article that's accompanying this lesson, there's a PDF download of all the examples. If you've never seen any of my lessons before, then you can of course subscribe to my channel. I publish a new lesson every Thursday. And I've been doing this for quite some time, so I've reached, I think, 100 lessons by now. So there's a lot of stuff, and it's all about jazz guitar and improvising and learning how to play solos and use different scales. So there's a lot of stuff to check out already. If you want to stay up to date with other things that are happening, then you can also go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter. I publish a newsletter every month, and I go over, of course, all the lessons that I'm publishing, but also if I'm publishing something in my web store, or if I'm on tour or playing somewhere, recording, stuff like that. So that's also a way to stay up to date with what's going on. If you have any comments or suggestions, then leave a comment on the video or connect with me on social media. So I'm on Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter and Instagram, and I do actually try to reply to most of the comments that I get, because it's interesting to get feedback from you guys, and if you have ideas for topics or things that I should do differently, or things you want to hear more about, then that's a nice way to get feedback and to make better lessons. So that's for me very useful, and maybe I can also answer some questions you might have. And also, if you ask something, there are other people who are watching these videos who already know a lot, and they might have an idea too, and they might also answer. That has happened quite a few times, that there are some interesting discussions going on in the comments. That's about it for this week. Thank you for watching, and until next week.